welcome to Culture Cult, where we are one podcast with 195 countries to explore. I'm your host, Marie, and this is where we spin the globe and learn about stories, history, and music from whatever culture we land on. At the end, don't forget to check out the Culture Cult playlist on Spotify, where you can hear awesome music I've been finding from all over the world. The link is in the bio of our Instagram, Culture Cult Show. So each episode, I bring on a guest. This is Chris Show. I've already had his brother Kyle on. Our friend anniversary is coming up. 4 years.
That's right. 4 years.
And October. It's October right now.
Yeah, it's almost one of the longest relationships I've ever had.
Oh my God.
It's ours.
It's oh my God. Yeah, our groups.
Yeah, the groups.
Yes. So we're here. I live on a rooftop. So on the roof, there was a storm, a windstorm. There is a storm.
Currently participating
It's cozy. We have whiskey, specifically peanut butter whiskey.
Mm-hmm. To where you want to go.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
So before we get into our country, I'm going to do a little disclosure. So the point of this podcast is to learn. My theory is that it's okay not to know something as long as you want to learn. So I'm not a historian. This ain't the BBC. I'm just doing my best researching these countries. And if I'm wrong, or if you have any comments, please email culturecultshow@gmail.com with your sources, and we'll dive into new information. It could even be years later and you're like, that ain't right. I'll address it. Just email me at culturecultshow@gmail.com. And this week, the second country we landed on is actually Libya. And Chris, can you tell me anything you can think of when it comes to Libya?
Libya is not a country that I've actually become familiar with through any resource available to me. Normally when I study African culture, people always touch on Egypt because of their amazing human achievements. People talk on Morocco and even the influence of Moroccan music on popular music. But Libya is not honestly mentioned on where I come from and my understanding of history.
And Libya is literally right next to those countries that you talk about. That's why a huge reason I'm doing this podcast is we hear the same story over and over. You could tell me 500 facts about Greece, I'm sure, but I mentioned the word Libya, everyone's like,
Yeah,
people live there.
Greece is a little different because a lot of Western ideas of government and I guess understanding of how things are come from that side of the world, particularly that Greece and what came out of those ideas.
I still feel like in school we just kept learning the same stuff though over and over and not venturing out in new cultures or histories.
Yeah, and I think that comes from a comfort thing. I think the people who speak about these places kind of know about these places. Maybe they've never been, but they've heard about them. And a lot of that discovery of the world stops past when you can no longer see out of eyesight. I think that part actually falls to the individual to continue to learn. Yeah. Learning doesn't stop in school.
No, yeah.
It's something sought after for the rest of your life. If you really want to know something, it's available to you. Just
especially in this day and age, there's really no excuse. So, that's why I thought it was interesting landing on this country as a second one. Oh, man, I couldn't tell you. I really couldn't tell you anything. So we are here for a story. Each of these countries and guests and episodes are going to have different personalities with them. Some are going to be ridiculous. Some are going to be really funny. Some of them are going to be more pensive and more about perspective. And I think this episode is more about themes are perspective. The themes are rebellion and I think passions. That's what I think the themes of this episode are. But the story today, it's about a music revolution, which is why I have Chris on. As a musician, that's someone who grew up in the music world. Do you want to dive into maybe how you grew up in music?
Yeah, so music came to me at a young age. Growing up in the music industry, my mom actually had managed a lot of really awesome rock bands. So she managed, probably the biggest influence was Metallica. And Metallica, just because they were around and we'd always, end up meeting up with them and actually end up going on tour with them is pretty cool. And that's what I grasped at a young age. And that's what I want to return to is being the source of music that brings people together like that. Because, man, when the Metallica crowds got together and they were
were the crowds
so excited. The crowds varied, actually. There was a lot of age between the people who had come, the people backstage, the people just around the band, everything. It was a lot of long timers. And
how many people in a stadium you think?
Oh, well, they would pack
50,000? Is that like a football
50,000, it could anyway. If it was an arena, probably around 30,000 packed. Okay. They have the best fans. Yeah. And they deserve it. They're the coolest motherfucking dudes. But really, just to the point of the conversation, it speaks to their ability to form a community because these guys are family guys and they're so knit in something bigger than themselves, that they are able to extend that to all their fans.
That's why I really wanted you on this episode, because you've seen music at its height and what it can bring and how it can affect groups of people. I think group is a small word to say, I guess, masses amounts of people. You see music at its freedom when there's no restraints. I'm about to tell a story where there's only restraint. This is recent history. And while you were having those experiences, while Metallica was having those experiences, this was happening in the same time frame. So we're going to talk about Libya's music revolution.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah. So this is a story with freedom fighters such as Massoud Boussaid. I'm just going to say, I'm really sorry if I ever butcher people's names. I'm really trying. Massoud Boussaid. He's a freedom fighter and the official troubadour of the music revolution. And also, like all the Libyan musicians who fought the biggest threat to their livelihood, to everything around them, they fought a dictatorship with music. So what kind of dictatorship? If you don't really need to know much about Libya to know that I'm talking about Mu'ammar Al-Qadhdhāfī. I just want to cut and say I'm not a political person. I do not think that we should see a country and think the politics of that country. That's not fair to all the life that happens in the country. But I can't with the story. The story is so good. And you can't have these amazing freedom fighters without the antithesis. You know,
they were fighting.
Yeah. I also can't ignore an amazing story. I don't think Libya is Gaddafi. I don't think Libya is its politics. It's so much more. But this is also a great story. So I got to tell it. And it just happens to have Gaddafi in it. Also, quickly, I noticed when I was researching this, do you know him as Gaddafi with a K? Or not, that's not an option. Do you know him with Gaddafi with a Q or Gaddafi with a G?
I would say Gaddafi with a Q.
Okay, so I'm not sure. But I'm going to call him Gaddafi, but who knows? I'm confused. But so before we get into our freedom fighters, let's talk about who he is. He grew up in humble beginnings in 1942. He grew up inspired by Arab nationalists such as the Egyptian leader Gamal Abdel Nasser, who wanted to unite all the Arabic countries and expel Western influence. He ended up really just focusing on reuniting all of Africa more than the Arab world. I think everyone has a good, the bad, and the ugly. I think some people have really bad uglies, but they do always can bring some good. So let's talk about the good of Gaddafi. He had a very early promising career. He was one of the few in history to pull off a bloodless coup, and this was of King Idris in 1969. While King Idris was out of town, he was like, wow, I'm going to take this. So he did. He went into the palace. He took over and he says, you're not the king anymore. I'm in power. And no one died. That's a flex.
Sudden change of events for the king. Can you imagine leaving the town for a little bit, get out of town, comes back?
You don't work here anymore.
If it even worked, I mean, who knew?
Well, that was a big thing. So Gaddafi didn't like King Idris because he engaged in Western interests, and Gaddafi's opinion was that King Idris kept all the money for himself and not the country, which sounds pretty just.
Was this Gaddafi's understanding of the situation poised to take power for himself?
Well, that's the thing. What is the true purpose?
Well, he seems like an idealist, so that seems like his purpose.
The idealism of this is... that sounds nice. He took a stand against Western powers with their hands in Libyan oil and demanded renegotiations of contracts in Libya. It became the first developing country to secure a majority share of the revenues from its own oil production. He reinstated Arabic. He reinstated traditional Islamic laws such as prohibition of alcohol, beverages, and gambling. That sucks. But he did liberate women and launched social programs that improved the standard of living in Libya and increased literacy. This is an average ratio I've been finding across the internet. It's the average ratio of literacy that he increased was 25% to about 90%, which is insane. That's very helpful for so many people. He redistributed farmland from pastoral families to local farmers on a government salary.
Well, I would say they can read, but if he wasn't controlling what they could read,
well, yeah, you have a perspective already. We're just looking at this right now. Just the good.
True. Okay. The good.
We're building into the character he is or was.
His history understands him. Yes.
Yeah. But as of right now, yeah, it sounds like a proper Peter Pan, or not Peter Pan. Sorry, Robin Hood. He sounds like a proper Robin Hood.
He's gonna steal from the rich,
and get richer
himself.
Robin Hood.
Robin Hood. Yeah.
So now let's talk about
Robin the Hood.
Yeah. Let's talk about the bad. It's not even the bad and ugly. It's just straight ugly. So he thought of himself as a celebrity. He became an egomaniac. I guess you don't really ever become an egomaniac. You probably always have that in you. It flourished. He quickly created a, quote, dictatorship by the biggest party, aka to him, he ran all aspects, and anyone spreading other theories would be tortured and put in prison. There was a horrible example of this, and It really does scar me. I saw a video of it. It's atrocious. It was a hanging execution of a man named Sadiq Hamed Shwadi. I really hope I said his name right. He was brought into a school, a children's school, obviously it's a school, where he had to claim on live TV that he's working with Western forces, and he was publicly hung in front of all these children as an example of what not to do with Gaddafi. He was publicly hung on TV. It was so disturbing. So that's what I'm saying. There's no bad. There's just ugly.
That's pretty ugly.
It's really messed up.
He's using death as
and bringing others
propaganda against. Don't go against him.
Yeah, it was a sign.
You'll find the same ending.
So already you're seeing what can happen to you if you decide to risk and stand up to this person. You could be hung in front of an entire school. That could happen to you on live TV.
I understand where it's coming from though, because he's a guy who took the throne from the king while he's out of town. So this guy's about sending messages.
Suspicious. Yeah, and he's probably suspicious of others. You know, it's just like, I'll make sure that doesn't happen to me.
Yeah, going over your shoulder.
Awful example. It's honestly easier to understand maybe someone's misfortune versus an entire group of people's misfortunes. That's why I told that story, because there was widespread massacres, widespread disappearances. That's hard to fathom, but we can truly picture what happened to Sadiq. It's on video. Yes, there's widespread massacres and disappearances, including complete prison wipeouts, where they put people into prison and they just murder everyone in that prison. He only had women bodyguards who all looked very similar, and he would handpick them. He would go to schools and just tap them on the shoulder, and then you would go with him, and you're forced into trafficking pretty much. He's very anti-Western, which makes sense, honestly, because all the invasions in Libya, especially with the past British and Italian rule and how they treated the Libyan people, that part makes sense. But this is where it leads into our story. He took it to the extreme where he had soldiers burn all the Western instruments in 1984, and there were no more Western influences coming in or out of Libya, which will lead to a rebellion. So let's talk about this music ban. In the Green Book, which is like his Mein Kampf, in the Green Book, his proclamation, he explained all music needs to be praised about him. Otherwise, it's silenced if not. And he handpicked his cherished singer, Muhammad Hassan, who dressed and had similar mannerisms as Gaddafi. So that's like if Biden just came out and was like, yeah, we're burning every single guitar, every single drumstick, drum set, everything's going. You can only play this certain kind of music. And this guy looks just like me. I have a guy who dresses in a suit. He looks like Biden, and he only played Biden's favorite music for the next 40 years.
I think what he's trying to say is he's trying to control the situation, and music as an art form is about free speech coming from somewhere genuine. And he knows that these instruments commonly used for rebellion, which is a really basic drum, bass, guitar, speaks to the world and forms masses around the ideas of revolution. I mean, I'm thinking like, how many rock and roll songs about revolution?
Yeah.
Rebellion. That's why I probably picked those ones to burn.
Yeah. He's like, the guitar.
Yeah,
He's like, I've seen the Beatles.
Oh, no. Not that.
All we need is love. Hell no.
Yeah.
All we need is Gaddafi. Change the lyrics.
Yeah. All you need is Gaddafi.
With a Q, with a G.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah, no, it's the most serious threat is freedom of speech.
Hiding it in Western music, yeah.
Yeah, but I was also thinking, if Biden did that, what kind of music do you think we'd be forced to listen to? What is Biden's Spotify playlist?
You know, I honestly don't know. He's come from a long time ago.
I think kind of like boat party music, maybe some Eagles, some Steely Dan.
I could see it being like soft rock.
Yeah, I mean, but it wasn't soft rock. Gaddafi wanted to listen to anything that Muhammad Hassan would play. His music was always surrounded by a crowd of musicians in front of a tent-like structure in the desert to pay tribute to the Bedouin, the nomadic tribes of the past he idolized. Hassan's music did not differ for over 30 years, just showing the lack of change and progressiveness Gaddafi disliked. That's a lot. So, which leads us to our freedom fighters, our musical resistance. So an example of what bands had to do during this time period, there's a really cool band called the Black Forest. It's a metal band, and they had friends sneak in LPs from Europe, such as Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Metallica, which were some of their favorites that they snuck in. They had to play Underground and Fear of Soldiers. For instance, one time while they were playing in an engineering facility in Tripoli, the soldiers cut out the power, and a friend of theirs went to prison for being political in their music. So that's just like all the band practice that you play, you have to play underground. And imagine one day one of y'all gets snagged.
Yeah.
Then you don't see that person ever again.
You know, in these kind of situations, you know you're not safe.
Yeah.
You know, and this is why you're gathering in this way. And this is why you're only playing in this part of town, if it's even in town, things like that. So
imagine like the next time you play, it could be the very last time. It could be
but
for
I think
all
that
of you.
Just was probably really normalized in a time where this guy is saying, hey, it's either my way or you die today.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of that is we don't understand, and for Western civilization, because we've been so lucky to be so far removed from situations like this that we have accepted that it's generally safe. We haven't accepted that, today, because of who's in charge of the situation, of all these things that I had no control over. Today I might die today for playing guitar.
For playing guitar.
Underground practice.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, it's really scary. It's really scary. They couldn't play concerts only together for themselves. So unless you're making music for Gaddafi, one of the drummers for Black Force, he hid his drum set all those years from the soldiers that were burning instruments, and everything they've written and composed is from the 1980s because they haven't had a chance to play or spread it. Imagine I can't play music for a year because of COVID. Imagine 30 years.
I can't imagine that because music has changed so much with the times. I mean, it's music,
but there's no music coming
reflection of the times,
or there's no music coming out. So you really are being stuck in whatever era he cut off that music from. So yeah, they're playing 80s music forever. I love 80s music, but
so you want to have the option. Of at least going to the 90s, early 2000s. So.
Yeah. And the Black Force is just one of so many examples. They have articles written about them now, but yet they're a metal band. Then you have Mu'ammar Busir, again, the troubadour of the revolution. He's always wearing camouflage clothes. His weapon was his beat up acoustic guitar covered in stickers. I mean, this guitar is completely covered. And one sticker in particular is with the red and white and green colors of the Libyan flag and the number 17. The sticker represents the February 17th revolution, inspired by the Arab Spring, which was a series of uprisings in Egypt and Tunisia. This day of revolt was happening in major cities all over Libya, including Benghazi, where Mu'ammar was protesting while Gaddafi's army drove bullets through the crowd. I watched a documentary called Stronger Than Bullets, and that's how I found about Mu'ammar. He has a gun on one shoulder and the guitar on the other, and he's constantly in a war. And he's playing national songs, and everyone's crowding around him and singing with him and clapping and just uniting and bringing people together, even though there's bullets flying everywhere. He's still playing music.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch.
I want to see that.
It's called Stronger Than Bullets.
Stronger Than Bullets.
Yeah, it's on Vudu for free, and it's on Amazon for like $2, and it's fantastic. And it's a true story. And oh God, it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, wow.
It's really
I want to see that.
It's really amazing to watch him singing while there's a war going around.
Yeah.
And just seeing the reactions of people. So at the height of the rebellion, foot soldiers came all over Libya, and the rebels advanced, and they advanced all the way to Tripoli. And amid the fighting, Massoud found a stage to sing on in the city square. It's now called Martyrs Square. This is where he starts to sing. And at first, it's only like a couple people just kind of watching. And then when half an hour, it turns into 6,000 people.
Wow.
So again, during the middle of a war that's happening, bullets, tanks, the height of the war, actually, people hear the music and they decide to gather instead of hide. 6,000 people gather to hear his music, and they risk their lives doing it all to protest Gaddafi. At one point, he's shot in the leg, and as he's being carried out on a stretcher by his comrades, chaos happening all around him, he's clutching his friend's hand and screaming and singing the national song still. No matter the force, Musad's spirit is stronger, and he says he plays music because he knows it hits people's hearts, which is what you were saying about words versus music. It transcends. If it's going to make me come out of my house in the middle of a war because I haven't heard music, live music, I haven't heard live music in so long, I'll risk a bullet.
Wow, that is prophetic. You know, the message, the music. Wow.
He just knew I just needed to play music right now, and there's like just maybe a couple people listening, and
came from his
it
heart.
gathers. It is really amazing to watch.
Oh yeah, I'll be watching this.
So on October 20th, 2011, Gaddafi is caught and found in a drain hiding, and he is dragged alive and killed in the streets, which is on video for all to see. Have you seen that video?
I have not. I was going to ask, how did you know he was dragged on the streets? And it sounds like you saw the video.
Oh, yeah. It's awful. I know he's an awful person, but it's really hard to watch someone truly scared. He's fucking frightened.
He knew it was going to happen. That is so frightening for him. But, you know, sometimes the transition from one era to another is incredibly violent, and especially if someone was holding on so tightly to a certain era. Yeah, it kind of had it coming.
I think it's just a bit different when you see it on video versus you hear about it or it's in a movie. You can watch it if you really want to. So he's dragged and he's beaten to death in the streets on October 20th, 2011. There are videos of people celebrating and honking with happiness. There's even a video, you hear a car crash in the background and everyone gets out of the car and they're smiling and high-fiving, even though they just crashed their car. Wow. And they're throwing peace signs because the death of Gaddafi is more to celebrate than the accident of the cars hitting each other. A whole country coming together to celebrate the death of one man. That's how much pain he caused. So I guess music now, what is it today? So since then, concerts such as the Festival of Freedom happen to celebrate music that now isn't a threat. It's not dangerous. It's not illegal. It's not deadly anymore. The Black Force, the metal band, they're signing deals to play outside of Libya finally after 30 years. They're finally able to leave their country and play for a different audience. Pretty sure they're still playing 80s music.
Yeah. Some things you can't change.
Yeah. There's a slow change. They are still playing with their instruments from the 80s though. Wow. Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Really
instruments
cool.
now, it's probably worth a pretty penny.
Yeah. Okay, you have a lot of guitars. Which one would you pick to play for 30 years and risk your life on?
Risk my life on. I think honestly, if it was going to be that long of a time, I have a Martin D28. It's very close to my heart. I have stickers on it as well. The guitar's name is Stickers.
Oh, is it?
It is Stickers, yes.
Perfect.
And that's the one I'd have because acoustic is a genuine expression. It's just the voice and the guitar and the gather around a campfire, get everyone singing a song. Just one person who knows a song, acoustic guitar, everyone chimes in, big community builder, and I love the way the guitar sounds. Yeah. So it'd be that one.
Yeah, Masood, he collected 6,000 people off just an acoustic guitar.
Yeah. That's all you need.
Another musician I wanted to mention who I found, he went into obscurity due to Gaddafi. His name is Ahmed Fakhroun. Okay, so I found him on this app. It's called Radio, but like RADIOOO. It's like 3 O's. It's so cool. You open the app and it's a world map and you can spin the globe and you can land on any country they have music from every era. So you can spin the timeline and go from like 1920s Polynesian music. Boom, they have a band. It's called Radio. I could not find Libyan music. It is so hard because of the reasons all I said. They couldn't even play music themselves without probably getting killed. They're probably not thinking about recording for America. So I found Ahmad Fakhroun. Super funky music. It's so much fun. He's a Libyan pop funk musician. It's called Habibi Funk. It's not just Libyan. I think it's just like Northern African kind of style. It's so good. But he was born in Libya, but he played a lot in England. And I guess that's how his music got known. He has really rich influences from the streets of Paris and London and the Libyan desert and temples of India. He just likes worldly music.
Yeah,
and he
it's everywhere.
Yeah, but he puts it into the form of funk. It's so good.
I want to hear funky Indian, traditional Indian music.
But he collected notes from different parts of the world. He was inspired by everything. In the 1970s, he played at local schools and dances in Benghazi. That's where he's from. He made his first studio recording with Tommy Vance. He's a producer from Radio Capital and BBC. And then he started playing in England mainly because the travel and the music ban in Libya was so harsh. This is a quote from the BBC and referenced how restrictive it was in Libya to play during the music ban. Fakhroun in BBC, he says, quote, "To take a plane to go from my hometown to any part of the world, I had to cross the Tunisian border to Jerboa, about 700 kilometers, or take a boat to Malta overnight and then travel the next day to the other part of the planet. Imagine the rest of the story," end quote. After that, Fakhroun's music fizzled into obscurity for a while until a DJ in New York called Prince Language unearthed his album and reintroduced him to the world. And the few records he produced became collector's items and sold as much as €200 per pop. He went from nothing just from being discovered.
Like Robert Johnson, actually, in American music. It wasn't celebrated until after he died, and this music was just what he had left, and then it blew up.
Yeah, stuff like that happens all the time, but this one's really not because, he just kept trying, it never happened. Like, the entire government was stopping him from being what he wanted to be. What's cool, Spotify has stepped in and has created a playlist called I'm With the Band, and it's music from all the countries from Trump's travel ban. So Spotify has created a playlist called I'm With the Band, and which is so cool because that was not an option for these people in Libya, to have a company step in and create a playlist about your music, no matter if the government said no. Because that's what's happening. Trump said, do not play this music from these countries. And Spotify was like, fuck you.
Yeah. That's what freedom looks like.
Again, I found that from the app Radio, and it kind of leaves us with these questions, more reflective questions, if anything. These people just risked everything, everything for something. And like, what would you do? What would you risk anything for?
I think there are only a few things that I would risk everything for. That would be for the overall betterment and or survival of my part of the world. My way of life, the people I love around me. And there's only a few things that you'd really drop everything for. And it would come from a place of love.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is.
And those are the people that we're talking about now. The people who would rather be dead than to live in a life made for them with rules they didn't have any say in. No.
Yeah.
No is the answer to this.
I wonder what happened to the friend that got put in prison from Black Force.
You have to investigate.
The more I do these stories and research, the more I have just more questions, which is good.
Yeah.
And again, if any of y'all have questions like this, tell me so that I can do this research, because I feel like there's a lot of open-ended questions with this one. Yeah, it really comes down to how important are your passions to you and how could they be used for good? I feel like that's the question that came to mind for me. Just risking it all.
Yeah. For a common good. Because, good is such a subjective word.
Yeah.
But these things that are unalienable rights to a happy life.
It's so funny because we don't
much more.
No, you don't know yourself until you're in a situation. Who are you really in a situation unless you are in it? So it's really awesome that these people showed up despite it all. It's just
not many people will be tried by the same trials as they went through.
Yeah.
To play the music they play.
So now if you think back on like how you grew up with the amount of freedom Metallica got to play. I mean, these guys were sneaking in LPs of the band that you got to tour with.
Yeah.
Just for that little breath of air, to then that album was everything.
Yeah.
Everything. But to a person in America, it's like, oh, have you heard new Metallica's album? No, I'm listening to Led Zeppelin right now. These people are like, I don't have music. I can't believe I get to have someone sneak me in an album.
Yeah. That's a lot of music actually spread that way. I don't know if you ever saw, I think something with Sugarman Looking for Sugarman or something.
Yes, that's Rodriguez.
Rodriguez. That journey as well. And everything about the music being, taken off and hidden, and then it comes into this environment where it really has a message and just takes on a life of its own.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what's happening here.
It's like weeds in a concrete. It's still going to find a way through.
Life finds a way.
Yeah. That was an incredible story about all the freedom fighters. The music revolution that's so recent. It's about 2011. They're still trying to, that's when Gaddafi died. So these musicians are still trying to make their way into society now.
Yeah.
So this is a recent story. And I don't like to talk about politics a lot, but I feel like these people definitely have a story to be told. Again, I got it from Stronger Than Bullets. It's a documentary. My other sources I got from localhistories.org, ohiolink.edu, BBC, Secrets of Nature. I think this is a YouTube channel. It's called New Africa. I tend to get it from different kinds of mediums.
That's probably for the best. I think that's actually the best way to learn about anything, is to also change up your medium.
Yeah. I really love YouTube because I'm a visual person. So I usually start off just typing in stuff. And then once I like something, I go watch a documentary or something. Yeah. So that's how I found Stronger Than Bullets. For some reason, even if you're from Libya or, just something about the story, you just want to make some corrections, don't forget to email culturecultshow@gmail.com. Please send in your travel emails. So if you have a travel story, it can be funny, it can be scary, it can be emotional. I don't care. Whatever kind of story it is. Also email culturecultshow@gmail.com, because every other episode, we're going to be reading out your stories. And so I brought Chris on to this episode because he is a musician. He's in a band called Sacocho. Talk about some of the music that just came out for y'all.
Yeah, so we just released actually the song that I've had for the longest time personally, that's still in the shuffle today. It's Something Real. And it just came from a long time ago, but it comes from something that's been happening ever since then still. Just everyone really engaged with their phones and being taken up by, what's millions of miles away, but, through the magic of social medians are brought into there. It's so engaging, and they're just here instead of being with everyone around them and being present in the moment they're in. I've really seen groups of people gathered together around a table and everyone's on their phone and no one's saying anything.
Yeah.
There's no conversation.
That's the opposite of our friend group. I don't think we're even on.
Thank God. I would have a hard time when someone disappears into their phone. It makes me want to disappear from this situation.
Yeah,
I just don't really feel like this is gonna be any fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank God that we're not surrounded by people like that.
Yeah.
We are surrounded by people like that. And that's what the song's about. And it's just the call to the wild, the call to the reality, back to where we are now.
Yeah.
Being present. And so that's...
And you have something, and you have more.
Yeah, more's out. And we have a music video coming out for that.
Yo, the music video
which is going to be
filmed
great.
on my roof.
Filmed here.
Really cool.
That's right.
We have
great views of downtown LA.
Yeah.
Meg did an amazing job
Meg,
on it. Yeah,
she's gonna be on a travel episode. She is learning how to be an actress, and she's phenomenal.
Yeah,
so
she did a great job.
gonna be in the music video.
So the best way to follow us is if you check us out on either Facebook, if you just look up SOKOJO. I promise you we're the only ones. And you can look us up there, on Instagram, just the same thing, SOKOJO Music. And we'll be right there. And wherever you are, whenever you are listening to this, just catch up, and we'll be playing. Hopefully, coming to a town near you.
Yes. So hopefully we could take away from this episode. What I take away from it is, oh man, I take away bravery from people.
Yeah.
And I take away gratitude. So much gratitude. I guess I'm very inspired.
Yeah.
And the admiration I have for these people. Don't take your passions and what you like to do for granted, or get on your passions. There's people who are dying over their passions. Get on what you want to do.
Yeah.
Life is short. What did you take away from it?
Man, as so much has happened to Libya that I just didn't know about.
Yeah.
And having my first reaction come out of me now is just simply to say, I can't believe the role that musician had in the rebellion movement, the bravery it took for those people to gather publicly to listen to a message, to listen to a song that unified them in their soul, that they risked their bodies to listen to it and to sing in the song. I think transcends music. It transcends. It goes into this upper echelon of human experiences, of the struggle, the sacrifice, the martyrdom, these things that we talk about now in this conversation that these people were living, not only the day they died, but every day they lived. So to me, Libby has just contributed so much, at least in energy, to my understanding of music, to the possibilities of music for me. And that's amazing for me because I've always grown up with music, and this has been an eye-opening experience of what music can do.
Yeah. Eye-opening and gratitude. I'd say it's the themes.
Gratitude.
Yes. But yeah, so that wraps up our episode of Libya. I was really excited to do this with Chris because I knew you could bring some spunk, but also a lot of introspection, because I think that's what this episode needs. And yeah, our next episode will be Greece. There's like 4 episodes of Greece. And I'm not doing that because it's Greece. I think that country, kind of we talked about in the beginning of this episode, like, oh my God, how many times have we heard the word Aristotle? We have been told the same story over and over with certain countries. Let's dig a bit deeper. So that's why I did 4 episodes. What are all angles we can see Greece from? So there's certain episodes that are going to be longer, and it's not because I have favorites or anything at all. It's just sometimes there's just more information out there, which is why episodes like this are important. That's why the documentary Stronger Than Bullets is so important. Or the app radio, where I could find that Habibi funk singer. It's harder to find stuff on these kind of countries. So Libya, I can't wait to learn more about it as we go on. And Greece is next. So shukran, which means thank you in Arabic. And thank you for listening to Libya. And check out our Instagram. It's Culture Cult Show to see where we land next on the globe, which will be Greece. And see y'all next time.